So
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Hi, Anne. Hi, Pam, Jim, Catherine. Nice to see you. Welcome, welcome.
Hello.
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 Hi.
Mhm.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
If you
Hi,
hear an
Sean. This
echo,
is
it's
the
because we're in the
information I
same
would have
house.
liked when I was probably where you are in your decision-making process. So hopefully you find it helpful. Um, all right. Well, we're at 6 o'clock and I want to honor your time. So let's dive in. So welcome to our masterclass, Credentials Matter. And the one that we're going to talk about today truly is going to change the game. So we're going to talk about all of that. If you wouldn't mind just throw in the chat where you're calling in from, so I can kind of I'm very visual, so I like to know where everybody's at. And then while you're doing that, I will take this opportunity to say thank you. I realize that you are taking time out of your workday or your dinner or your family time or self-care. So to be here. So I thank you. It is not lost on me that you're taking time out of your busy day. None of us are not busy to be here. So thank you for that. And I want to make sure this is worth your time. So let's start with who this is for, making sure you're in the right place. I think you probably are, but let's just double check on that. So you are in the right place if you have taken trainings, but you still don't feel ready to coach. Like, what do I say if they say this? How do I run a session? If you're exploring health coaching, but you don't know where to start. If you've heard of board certification, but it sounds complicated or maybe overwhelming, you are wondering if there's a difference between a certificate and a certification, and spoiler alert, there is. You're tired of piecing it all together on your own. And you want to feel like a real expert. So, not just to have another piece of paper. A lot of us here may have pieces of paper, but you want to really feel like an expert in what you do. In addition to that, you're probably passionate about health and wellness. That's why you're here. It's possible that you went through or are going through a health journey, or you are close to somebody that went through a health journey. And so you want that certification to match your passion to help others. You're heart centered, you're of service, and you want that certification to match. So basically, the answer is yes or also yes. So who is this for? If you have experience in health and wellness, yes, this is for you. If you don't have experience in health and wellness, yes, this is also for you. So you are a yes or an also yes. This is applicable to everybody. So what I want you to walk away with is why board certification actually matters. Does it matter who it's for and who it isn't for? So maybe that's you. What it takes to earn it. So the real, like, legitimate steps to get board certified as a health coach, if that's something you want to do. What to look for in a solid training program, why this investment pays off, and then how to move forward with clarity. So what is your path? We will leave time for Q&A at the end, but if you have questions along the way, pop them in the chat and we'll try to get to them as we go along. But I mean, for sure, we'll get to them at the end. So when it comes to board certification, coaching and board certification, this is what I thought, and this is what I heard and I'm hearing from coaches. So something like, I keep wondering if I really need board certification. Like, is it worth the time and money? Because it's time and it's money. What if I go through all this and I still don't feel confident enough to coach? That would be a super big bummer. I want to become a health coach, but the path feels overwhelming. Like, where do I start? Because every step feels like a guessing game. What program do I take? Do I need board certification? Like, how do I do it? When do I do it? So, based on that, these are questions that our coaches have had, but these are questions that I have had. These are the questions I had when I started my journey, which is why I put this together. And speaking of me, I know some of you, but my name is Jill Baccaro, and I'm the president and chief wellness officer at IHIS, which is the Institute for Holistic Integrative Studies. I'm also the lead instructor there, and I'm a nationally board certified health and wellness coach. I have a Bachelor of Science in Kinesiology. I'm a graduate of a naturopathic doctor program. I've coached hundreds of clients. I've taught many, many students. I'm also a mom and a travel fanatic. So in fact, when I was finishing my program for coaching, and studying for the board exam and taking the board exam and putting our program together, I was on the road full time. So I was living in a schoolie in a renovated school bus with my family, doing all of this, remotely and kind of all over the place. So I say that to say I have a very soft spot in my heart for busy adult learners. And we're going to talk about that more later. But I just wanted you to know, that's me. And also me is I'm somebody that went through multiple programs and still did not feel ready to coach. Like, really, what do I say? And how do I start? And what does a session look like? Um, I know what it's like to feel like you're not there and wondering what's going to make you feel like you're there. So I put this together because this is what I wish I existed when I was figuring it all out. So I'm hoping that this is all here to kind of have you walk away being like, okay, I know what I want to do and I know how to do it. So tell me what you want, what you really, really want. If you get the reference to the picture, congratulations. It's an old reference. But what I mean by, tell me what you want is really start thinking. You've probably already started thinking. So continue to think of what kind of experience you want. What do you want the end result to be? What do you hope to accomplish? Because at the end of the day, it's really important what you want. So take what you want, take your goal and your kind of foresight, what you hope to accomplish, your vision, and kind of put it over everything that we're going to talk about. So customize, the rest of what we're going to talk about to what you want. What I think you want, what I know you want, based on what I know coaches want, is you want more than a certificate. So a clear path. Again, if I go in this direction, it's going to get me where I want to go. Not if I go in this direction, like, oh, shoot, that was the wrong direction, right? So a clear path is helpful. Credibility is probably what you're looking for because it really, it's unfortunate to go through all this time and all this effort. And then you're like, oh, nobody really cares what I do. Like nobody's acknowledging this, right? So credibility can be really important. Confidence with real clients. It's great to, read and do worksheets and watch videos, but like, do you have confidence to work with real clients? A legit career. It's fun to coach, but like, wouldn't it be nice to make a living, a career out of coaching? You want to help people feel better. You want to know that you're actually qualified to do that. So I asked our graduates to think back to the beginning of their coaching journey, like when they were where you are. And some of the things that they, came up was, I need to know what to do. Like, what do I do first? And then what? Like, I'm tired of piecing everything together from a million sources. How is board certification different from the certificate I already have? And there are so many programs out there. Which ones are for real? So I just want one that actually prepares me to be coach and not just a coach, like a really good coach. So again, this is what, I've heard from coaches. This is, when we ask them to think back to the beginning of their journey. So when we think about going forward, we want to kind of get the obstacles out of the way. So what is getting in the way of going forward to become a health coach, become a board certified health coach? So one is that there's confusing information everywhere. Like, what do you believe? There's big shiny programs and there's beautiful websites and there's promises and there's fancy emails. People telling you you do need a certificate or you don't need a certificate. So like, how do you decide what's right? Programs that don't prepare you for the real work, meaning, sometimes there's experts who skip the how. So again, okay to watch videos, okay to do, worksheets, but like, are they preparing you to coach? And it's really great that there's experts in the field and sometimes like they're influencers and they're really well known, but are they teaching you how to coach or are they just kind of like talking up, the school or the program? Thousands and thousands and sometimes tens of thousands of dollars. And then no clear path from passion to profession. So what else? Anything else getting in the way of you going from here to where you want to go? You can either throw it in the chat or you can come off mute. It's a pretty good list. All right. So while you're thinking about that, let's talk about the hierarchy of healthcare. So if you are coming to this call or to this masterclass with another certification, a degree, a license, a credential, this is going to be helpful for you. But also, there's a ton of terminology floating around when it comes to health and wellness. Certificate, certified, accredited, approved, registered, licensed. Like it's kind of hard to sort through. So let's do that. Okay, so let's start with certificate. So a certificate is issued when you complete a training or non-degree program. So you go through a program, you go through a course, and you get a certificate of completion that says you've met the requirements or the criteria for that program or that course. So that's certificate. Then we have certification. So permission to practice within standardized criteria. So this is our lane, this is our scope, this is a criteria, and certification allows you to practice within that. It's granted by a non-government agency. Um, there are education requirements, including the passing of exam or assessment. So there's particular schools or programs that are approved to get the certification, and then a passing of an exam or a test. It's usually time limited, meaning that it requires ongoing or continuing education to retain, which is really a good thing. Because if you've been in health and wellness for more than 5 minutes, you know that it's changing about every 5 minutes, right? So being board certified, right, is we want to be confident that we know the latest and the greatest. My dad was a mechanic for my whole life. And aside from, the kind of training that he did when he was a teenager, he never went back to school to learn anything more about cars. So as cars became more electric and more technical, like he kind of, worked his way out of a job because the amount of cars and the numbers of cars that he could work on were like becoming less and less. It was just the older models. So certification and continuing education is a good thing to keep us like in the know and aware of trends in the industry. And then it's typically seen by an advisory board. So a board, a group of individuals that create the exam, they determine the competencies, the standards, they do advocating for the field, they're aware of the industry, they updates, all of that good stuff. So that's certification. Then we have license. So license is also permission to practice, but it's typically granted by government agency at the state level. So for example, you're a licensed medical doctor in the state of Georgia. Education as well and other eligibility requirements along with passing an assessment or an exam, right? So there's schools that are dedicated to, like medical schools. So you go to that school, you take the exam. It's time limited as well, requires ongoing or continuing education. And the difference between license and certification is that licenses actually prohibit non-licensed people from practicing. So you can't just be a doctor, a medical doctor, or even an insurance agent or a real estate agent unless you're licensed, which is different than certification because there are health coaches that are not board certified, but then you could take it to the next level and get board certified. So certificate, certification, license, and when we kind of look at them all together, the hierarchy is license, certification, certificate. So if you can kind of imagine the health world as a ladder, we have license near the top. You're fully authorized to practice by law. Certification is in the middle, very highly respected, earned through usually a very rigorous process and an exam, but not legally required. And then a certificate, which would be your first step, your education that gets you starting to climb the ladder. So with that in mind, we're going to focus on certification in the rest of the time together with kind of a minor in the certificate. So certificate and certification is what we're going to focus on. So when you think of someone being board certified, what comes to mind? You can either put it in the chat or come off mute. What do you think of when you think of board certified? Doctors? Mm-hmm. What else? Accountants. Yep. Licensed. They must be qualified. Yeah, exactly. So board certified, reliable, professional, vetted, standards, right? They're meeting standards, specialized knowledge. Exactly. Kind of cream of the crop, right? And somebody put accounting in. So board certification isn't just a healthcare thing, right? It's really the gold standard across professions. So lawyers, engineers, financial planners, right? It means that you've met particular and likely very high standards. Yes. Standard of proficiency oversight by external group. Excellent. So with that, let's talk about the board that we're talking about, right? So who the heck is this board when we're talking about board certification? And the NBHWC, or the National Board for Health and Wellness Coaching, is like our board. And so they're really the leading organization advancing the field of health and wellness coaching. They are leveling up and standardizing and elevating the profession of health and wellness coaching. They set very high standards for coach training and certification. So there's guidelines in place for the training and then the certification itself. They administer the national board exam for health and wellness coaches. So the exam is given by the NBHWC. They ensure that coaches are qualified to support real lasting behavior change. So coaches truly are behavior change experts. And so that's what part of the board, what they do is they make sure that we know and have the skills to create behavior change in our clients. They build trust in the public by certifying skilled, ethical, effective professionals, and they're committed to raising the bar and the visibility of the coaching profession. So we here may know what a coach is, a health coach. And even us here, we may have difficulty describing what exactly a health coach does. But think about the rest of the people in your life. You know, if you would poll the people in your life, how many would know what a health coach is? Not many, right? I absolutely love the alternative health and wellness space. I teach it, I live it, I love it. But it can be a little bit of the Wild West because health coach is not a regulated term, right? So there's health coaches that work with meal planning, and there's health coaches that do energy work, and there's health coaches that are yoga instructors, and there's health coaches that work with essential oils and recommend supplements. And that's all great. But if we step outside of that and put ourselves in the shoes of a potential client or consumer, it's very confusing. Why should I go to a health coach? I don't really know what they do because this one does that and this one does that, right? So the idea here is that we're trying to spread the word, right? So that health coach is also a household name, just like dentist, accountant, plumber. You know what they are and you know when you need them, right? So the goal of the board is really to kind of like share information about what a health coach is, what they do, and how they can benefit people. So that's the board. So with that, let's just take a second, a pause here and talk about what is a health coach. So a health coach is a trained professional, an expert in behavior change who partners with clients. So partner, facilitator, collaborator, to create not just lifestyle improvements and behavior change, but sustainable, long-term behavior change and lifestyle improvements so they feel better, take control of their health, and reach their goals. So we help people make changes when change is not easy to make. Because when change is easy, then they wouldn't need us, right? So health coaches help people make changes that they want to make when they're hard. All right. So let's go back to the board. So what makes the NBHWC special? There are a lot of boards. There's a lot of board certifications, but what makes this one really, really impactful is that they have partnered with the National Board of Medical Examiners, which is the NBME, to develop and administer the Health and Wellness Coaching Certification exam. The NBME, for those of you in the medical field or know somebody who is the same organization that creates board exams for physicians in the US. So this collaboration ensures that the certification not only meets really high professional standards, but it's recognized. It's recognized across healthcare settings. So it's not just another fluffy credential, like it has real credibility. So what do our coaches have to say about this? So I legit had a doctor email me asking to partner, like what this board certification actually works. So the hospital, with another graduate, the hospital wants me to build and integrate my health coaching services directly into their obesity and metabolic health program. Not contracting, not referring out, like you integrate your program into our program. And then finally, Cherie said, I wanted to let you know that this past week, I was hired as a health coach for a company that works with insurance. Thanks to that certification, I'm officially a virtual health coach, a real job with benefits and everything. And I left the LOL in there because she couldn't even believe it. Like sometimes it's like we know the potential and it's still like so like kind of unbelievably exciting when it happens. So, this is a real certification that's going to allow you to do the work that you want to do. It's great if you like coaching and maybe you're even wonderful at it, right? But if you have no clients, you're not really serving. So this is some of the feedback. And again, I just think it's important to point out the credibility and how this board certification is acknowledged. Whether you want to work in the medical field directly or not, we have more opportunity for referrals and collaborations and partnerships with a credential that's recognized. Any questions so far on what we've talked about? All right. So, what we know about health and wellness, kind of on an individual level, is that the need for lifestyle and behavior change is paramount in supporting health. So, the health challenges of today are complex um, and often require more than just a medication or a procedure. They need a little bit more. A person also is a whole person. We know that. That's how we look at a person. And so we get the connections between food and movement and emotion and sleep and relationships and past experience and work environment and home environment and all of that, how that all plays into who a person is and how well they are or how unwell they are. Um, Sustainable change is the goal. So most people can do something for 7 days or 21 days or maybe even 30 days. But what happens on day 8 or day 22, right? Most of the times we don't have like a ramp back onto regular life. New Year's resolutions, most of them don't last past the first month. Like we're getting to the New Year's resolution time of year where they'll last a few weeks and kind of fall off. But we know sustainable change is the goal. So we're interested in, as health coaches, what can you do for 3 months, 3 years, the rest of your life, right? So that's really where that sustainable change comes in. Most people know what to do, they're just not doing it. So they say knowledge is power, which I believe is true, but I think it's only half the story, right? Because if all the power came by knowing what to do, we'd be in a different scenario from a health perspective, right? Because a lot of people know they should like have a couple more vegetables, drink some water, move their body, decrease sugar, but we're not doing it, right? So there's a gap and a sizable gap between knowing and doing. And that is like a lot of the beautiful work that health coaches can do. So we can bridge that gap, right, between knowing what to do and actually doing it. And then sometimes people just need someone to come alongside them to make the changes. Accountability, support, guidance. If you think about traveling out of state or even out of the country and you're somewhere where you're unfamiliar and you want to go on a hike, wouldn't it be nice to have somebody who could guide you based on what you want to do? Oh, do you want to go to the water? You might want to go this way. Do you want to go to the peak? You might want to go this way. Are you looking for something family friendly? Do you want it to be easy, hard? Do you want to camp overnight? Do you want to just do a day trip, right? So sometimes it's just that partner, that accountability partner, that guide that people really need to move forward. So that's kind of what we know about, health from maybe like an individual or potential client perspective. But we also know the market is changing. The health market is changing. So healthcare is becoming a team sport. And I don't mean just a bunch of like, specialists, right, that don't talk to each other. I mean like a team, like a care team. And health coaches are now part of that care team that helps improve outcomes, reduce costs, and makes care more patient centered. So we have an opportunity to kind of help the client connect the dots if they do have multiple providers. And a lot of people that are in the medical system have, gone are the days where you have one doctor that does everything, right? You might have several specialists. So health coaches really have an opportunity to come in and help prioritize, help sort things out, right? Help the communication. Certified health coaches specifically are in high demand, especially in settings that partner directly with doctors and medical teams. So you can, if you're a clinic, if you're a hospital, why would you risk hiring or bringing on a non-board certified health coach. You'd bring on a board certified health coach because you know they understand a scope of practice, right? You know they've passed a board exam. They at least have this level of knowledge and understanding of competencies. The system is strained. There aren't enough doctors, nurse practitioners, physician assistants are overwhelmed, and wait times are growing. It's shocking the number of clients I have that are waiting 2, 3, 4 months for very important doctor appointments. I mean, neurologists, cardiologists, oncologists. So the health coach, we have an opportunity to come in and help with the complexity of health challenges that we just talked about that are going to best benefit from lifestyle and behavior change. Then the medical system can do what they do best, which are the surgeries and the diagnosis and the acute therapies and the medications. I always laugh and say, like, if I get in a car accident, I don't want to go to a master herbalist. I want to go to the hospital. Is a time and a place to go to the hospital, and there's a time and place where lifestyle behavior change is really impactful. So we have an opportunity there. And then lifestyle medicine is gaining traction in general. So there are doctors, medical doctors that understand that lifestyle and behavior change is, really important part of health. And so focusing on that behavior-based approach to prevent, to manage, to even reverse chronic disease, and health coaches can play a really key part in that process. So the health market is changing, and also just for health coaches specifically. So the US health coaching market was valued at almost $7.5 billion in 2023, and it's projected to grow to almost $11 billion in 2029. Globally, it's around 20 billion. There's about 12,000 board certified health coaches in the United States and about 128,000 practicing coaches. So people that say that they coach. So what's important about that is less than 10% of coaches are board certified. So that kind of illustrates this gap between credentialed and uncertified coaches. So that translates into a major opportunity for us, for board certified coaches, to coach. There's over 300 million people in the US and only 12,000 board certified coaches, right? We have a lot of work. We have a lot of opportunity. 87% of large US employers prefer certified coaches. So corporate wellness is growing. And again, if you're a big company, why would you risk bringing on a non-board certified health coach? If you're doing, a wellness incentive or an initiative in your company, you would want to bring on a board certified coach. And then 70+% of employers, so people looking to hire coaches, would require or encourage certification. And just to illustrate some of that, I popped onto Indeed and I did a search for health coaches. So over 7,000 jobs came up when I searched health coach, and many of them included certified health coach certification, board certification. So the job opportunities are requiring board certification. And the great thing about board certification is whether you want to be an entrepreneur and you want to have your own practice or you want to get a job, there's both. And it can be really exciting to get a job because not everybody wants to do the marketing and not everybody wants to, do the scheduling and, do the business end of things. There are job opportunities for board certified health coaches. And there's also opportunities to run your own practice. And then just to add on one more thing. So, according to the CDC, 60% of Americans have at least one chronic disease and 40% have two or more. Over 90% of patients said they need more help with chronic disease management. So, right, how do we do this? Like health coaches may be unaware of the role that they play in a doctor's office and vice versa. I would agree, but there's definitely a place for health coaches to come in. If 91% of people say they need help managing chronic disease, man, there's a place for coaches. All right. So how do we do this? How does it work? Should you wish to get board certified? How do we get from here to there? So let's go through the process. Okay. So first is finding a board approved training program, and you want to make sure that it is board approved. There's programs that sound approved or sound certified or sound important, but you want to make sure that it's truly board certified or board approved. And we'll talk about that detail in just a minute. Because it's a lot of work to go through a program and be like, oh, well, that didn't really meet the qualifications. I got to go through another program. So finding a board approved program is number one. Then you'll successfully complete that program. And the programs vary that are board approved, but there's guidelines that they must meet to be a board approved program. So you're going to successfully complete that program and then conduct 50 coaching sessions. So between you finishing a board approved training program for health coaches and applying for the board exam, you would conduct 50 coaching sessions. We talk about that in our program, best practices, how to do it. But the reason is by the time you take that exam and pass that exam, the board wants to know that not only do you have the information and you know what the scope of practice is, and you know how to be client centered, but you've actually sat in front of clients and coached. So by the time you're board certified, you have that practical experience and then you have the knowledge. So you conduct those 50 coaching sessions on top of completing your program, and then you can apply for the board exam. Hopefully you study and pass, and then you would have that credential, National Board Certified Health and Wellness Coach, NBHWC, lots of letters in this field. So let's focus on finding a board approved program. What does that look like? So let's talk about what to look for in a program. So one is looking for this seal of board approved training program. So you want it actually NBHWC approved, not just like inspired by the board or somewhat aligned with the board. It needs to have this seal and be a board approved program. Next, you want to understand who the faculty is. So credentialed and experienced faculty who have coached and are experts in their field. So it's great if they're popular, if they're well known, if they're big names, if they're influencer, but have they coached? So you want to make sure that your instructors, your faculty, your mentors in a program have coached. Real coaching practice. So not just watching videos or writing papers. If you take a program or you're looking into a program and there's no coaching practice and there's no live learning, I can guarantee you it's not board approved, because that's part of the criteria to be a board approved training program. So you want a program that offers you real coaching practice. And then with that, thoughtful feedback. So practice, but then feedback and support, right? Where did you shine? Where are your challenges? Again, by faculty that are coaches. Exam prep built in, so you're not scrambling at the end. It's awesome to take a program you like, but when you finish that program and you pivot to prepare for the exam, you should feel prepared. You should feel ready and confident that you know what to expect on the board exam. So exam prep built in is something that would be especially helpful to work for or to look for if you plan on taking that board exam. Small cohorts, so you don't get lost in the crowd. A lot of us, right? There's only 12,000 board certified coaches and there's only 128,000 health coaches. So statistically speaking, right? Most of us are not in a circle of other coaches. So we might be the only person in our world, that is into health and wellness, that wants to be a health coach. So a school with small cohorts will allow you that sense of community and connection with people like you. So you're not just a number, right? But who you are as a human being is important and what you bring to the program. So small cohorts can be helpful. And finally, support that sticks around after graduation. So not just like a thank you and goodbye. Arguably, post-graduation is a time when you need the most support and guidance. So you finished your program, now what? Do I apply? When? What? How do I start my business, right? So you want to look for something that provides support after graduation. So here's a couple of pieces of feedback from our graduates. So Erin said, we followed the NBHWC framework from day one, so nothing on the exam felt random or new. You don't want to show up to exam and be like, I've never heard of that before, right? I got to ask questions, make mistakes, learn in real time. That kind of support is rare. And I would agree, in just the age of AI and tech and, over scheduled and, trying to be super efficient. We miss that high touch and that personal kind of like one-to-one experience. Those live calls saved me. I finally understood the stuff I kept second guessing. So, as part of a program that has live learning, you get to engage, you get to ask questions, you get to have group discussions. So, the hope, right, is that you really leave with like, oh, I get it now, right? Because watching a video, that's great. Doing a worksheet is great. Going through a guide is great. But putting it all together is the most important part. So, taking all that, what you want to ask yourself, in addition to kind of like what we just talked about, right? So when you're looking for a program, is it board approved? What are the faculty credentials? Will I get coaching practice and feedback? Is exam prep built in? Are the cohorts small? Will I get post-grad support, right? So that's just kind of asking what we talked about on that last slide. In addition to that, you also want to ask, the logistical things. When does it start? How long is the program? Can I attend the live calls? Are the calls at a time that you can attend? Because again, that live learning is part of any board approved program. And then is the investment worth it and within my means? It's great if you love a program. We just don't all have $12,000 to drop, right? So the logistics are important too. So like, let's ask those questions. So I want to just spend a little bit of time talking about the IHIS, or the Institute of Holistic and Integrative Studies Health and Wellness Coaching Program. So this is our board approved training program for health coaches. So at IHIS, I truly feel like we're here to help you cut through the noise and actually become a great coach. Like, that is our goal. Everything we just talked about, that's what we do. So I took my experience going down this wrong road and that wrong road and U-turning and figuring out like, oh, that's what I should have done the first time. And this is what I wish I would have had. And that would have been helpful. I took all of that and I put it into this program. So we don't just teach, we support, we challenge, we cheer you on every step of the way. So we really built the program to be different, in my opinion, in the best way possible. So you're not just going to be another student like falling asleep on Zoom. It's a combination of live learning and self-paced learning, because a live learning is great, but sometimes it's nice to have stuff to do like when it fits into your schedule. Small cohorts, which allow the personalized support, the community and connection, real coaching hours with faculty feedback, exam prep right in the program, practice questions, exam tips, best practices, all of that. A real world launch pad for your coaching business. So it's awesome to know how to coach, but if you want to open your own business, we know it goes beyond that, right? You need templates and coaching agreements and client handouts and how to design your program and creating your niche. Who are you going to coach? Who's your ideal client? Letters to doctors, starting your business, marketing, financial. And so we offer that. So it's a real world coaching launch pad so you can start your business. Postgraduate support. So again, we, rather than kick you out, we invite you to stay. We're really here to walk this path with you. There's a gap, and actually it's pretty sizable, between who goes through a coaching program and who actually coaches. And our goal, number one, is to close that gap. If you want to be a coach, we want you to be a coach. So what do you need? You need coaching skills, you need coaching practice, you need to pass that exam, you need to get that credential, you need business support, you need handouts, you need templates. What do you need? And we're constantly evolving, constantly improving, with that goal in mind of you coaching. So let's talk about who this is for. So we talked about who the masterclass is for, but let's talk about who the program is for. So I mentioned the busy adult learner before, which is truly a busy adult who wants to learn. And that's most of us, I would say. None of us aren't busy. So the busy adult learner is the person that has commitments to community, to family, to career, to activities. I mean, just to life, right? So somebody that has commitments, that is busy, but who can dedicate time and effort to something that is a priority. Just because you're busy doesn't mean you shouldn't have the opportunity to follow your passion or get that credential or go in the direction that you want, that new path. So our program meets and exceeds the board criteria while being as flexible as possible. That's really our biggest goal. This program is also for experienced coaches who wish to increase client success. So maybe you're a coach, but you're like, nobody's doing what what I'm telling them to do, right? So we help you understand what makes people tick and truly guide behavior change. What tends to make people want to make a change? What tends to be motivating? What tends to reverse motivation? How important is it to know like how ready your client is to make a change, and how do you talk to them in a way that fits their readiness? New coaches who want to do it right the first time. I don't want to go down 7 different paths and figure out that's wrong. I just want to get it right the first time. It's really good for those who wish to integrate with the medical community in service of patient client success, and then be a part of a movement to level up the profession of health coaching. So our board approved health and wellness coaching program is streamlined yet comprehensive. It was built around the competencies that were given to us by the board, which is the NBHWC. So we really designed it for 2 things. One is to prepare you for the board exam, and then the other is to be a confident, knowledgeable, and safe coach. So rock the exam, be an awesome coach. If you're not familiar with the content outline from the board, I'm actually going to put the link in the chat. But these are the competencies that the board thinks are important for coaches to know and understand and be able to execute. So coaching presence, relationships, sessions, theories, models, skills, tools, ethics and professional practice, health and wellness. We created our program around the content outline. So we set you up to be prepared for the exam. We cover all the competencies. That's what our program is built around. Because ultimately, if you go on to take the board exam, it's on these competencies. So we cover all of them in our program. So how does it work? So the program is 13 to 14 weeks. It's 13 weeks of instruction plus an extra week for the exam. There's a mix of pre-recorded modules, which are self-paced, with interactive group sessions, live calls. There's also structured coaching skills practice sessions, dozens of downloadable resources, from worksheets to templates to workbooks to guides. The next cohort begins the week of January 12th and ends in April. If you take the January program, you would be eligible to take the July 2026 exam. It would be a tight turnaround, or November. But you have up to 7 years to take the exam. So you can take it really when it feels right to you. So by this time next year, you could be a board certified coach. Let me just break down kind of what every week looks like. So every Friday, we release a new module, and that's the recorded content, document, self-assessment. And then the following week, we have those live calls, and that's where we expand on that content. So for January, we have 2 live group calls options. So Tuesdays and Thursdays, noon to 1:30 p.m. Eastern, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 7 to 8:30 p.m. Eastern. The live calls are recorded, but the attendance is mandatory. So going back to, make sure this is a time that works for you. And these are classes that you can attend. But we try to do a day and a night because some people have daytime availability. Sometimes people have nighttime availability. So depending on your schedule, hope you can find something that works. In addition to that, you'll have 3 coaching skills practice sessions outside of those live calls. There's module self-assessments, like quizzes to make sure, to keep yourself on track. Our online final exam is modeled after the board exam. Not all programs are like that. So we feel throughout the program, we go through practice questions, but our final exam is modeled after the board exam. So when you take our exam, you'll have a really good idea what the board exam is going to look like. And that's really important. We offer office hours, a private Facebook community, and then Coach Collective, which is our coach membership. So monthly labs to refine your skills, level up your coaching practice. We have experts that come in. We talk about different skills. We have opportunities for you to bring client scenarios. my client said this, I didn't know what to do. I'm afraid my client will say this and I won't know what to do. So you are a part of that as soon as you're a part of the program and beyond. So just to wrap up the benefits of, not only our program, but really kind of like the board certification in general, our program will prepare you for that board exam, being recognized by the medical community, partnering with doctors and licensed professionals. Again, even if you don't want to work in the medical community, I know coaches that, make a living off of a partnership or referrals from one or two doctors, right, with this board certification. Working with patients within the scope of practice, improving results with clients, applying for more job opportunities, ready to use documents like a coaching agreement, letter templates to doctors, insurance codes, and then FSA and HSA. So flexible spending account and health saving account funds. Board certified coaching is eligible for compensation or reimbursement from FSA and HSA at the moment. And then CPT codes are they're existing and they're working on, constantly getting them, kind of more accepted and covered by different plans and different companies. Any questions on the program or really anything we talked about so far? All right. So let me introduce you to the program. So the program is $34.97. You can pay in full or you can make monthly payments as low as $200. So IHIS was recognized as one of the top 3 board approved training programs that combined affordability, credibility, and efficiency. If you've looked for board approved training programs, you know that this is on the low end. It's a screaming value. We believe in accessibility. Oh yeah, the link wasn't complete. Oh, I see. Thanks, Sean. Let me go back to that. Okay, yeah. I realize what happened now. Thanks. Okay. So we believe in accessibility. That's why we're offering payments. I will die on the hill that everyone needs a health coach. So if everyone needs a health coach, we need more health coaches. If you want to be a health coach, I want to make it possible for you to be